One of the questions that I get is how about using ClickHouse MCP? Why do you need to have Zero Analyst when you can have an MCP server over ClickHouse or over some other database that can then take your natural language question and convert it to a SQL query and then do the analysis as well? Why even need that? Why not just use LLM to take your natural language question and give the schema of your table and then convert it to a SQL query and then get it executed? So what is the difference? Is Zero Analyst also does the same, right? Just takes your question and converts it to a SQL query and then gets you an answer. So let's have a look at what the difference is between Zero Analyst and a SQL query uh, to a natural language question to a SQL query converter. So, like we saw in the previous video, and the link of that video is in the description, we asked a few questions to Zero Analyst. It pulled the data from ClickHouse and produced the results. And here is the result. So this is some pollution level trend around the year in New Delhi, and it gave these results. And these are the results, like we saw. And also, it has shown the receipts. Like this is the backing evidence, the receipts that we brought, and you can use this to verify for yourself whether there is hallucination or not. So, given that the receipts, the data that has been pulled out matches the graphs and the analysis over here, we see that there is no hallucination. Likewise, we also ask one more question. Now, we again see the receipts over here, and we also looked at this graph, and we also compared the results of this analysis with what we saw on the internet. And so we saw that there was no hallucination over there, and it actually could match what was there on the internet. So let us look at what ClickHouse MCP returned for these questions. So the first question was, give me pollution level trend around the year for New Delhi using Zero Analyst. So we asked the same question, give me the pollution levels around the year for New Delhi using Zero Analyst. Now this has been answered using ClickHouse MCP. So it tried a bunch of things, ran a query, queries timed out, and after a whole bunch of stuff that it did, it ultimately did come up with the result for this. And this is pretty much in line what we saw with Zero Analyst. And it came up with this graph. So while this graph itself is correct, there's a lot more that Zero Analyst produced. It produced more graphs, more analysis over here. And one of the important things that it did is that it also produced the data that it pulled out that backed the graphs and the evidence. It also gave visualization, it also gave recommendations, insights in much more detail and how and questions on how you could do a deeper analysis. Now, in this particular case, for this particular question, it's clear that well they are still this graph is still in line with what Zero Analyst produced. However, let us look at another question. The next question that we asked was find the humidity, temperature, and air pollution levels in Mumbai. And well, it did come up with some data, and it did come up with some. It did come up with some data. There is no visualization along with this, and what it shows is that there is a strong negative correlation, humidity versus pollution. So, this, as far as this particular analysis is concerned, it shows that the it shows that as humidity increased, pollution actually decreased, and that is incorrect because that is not in line with what we see on the internet. If you read up on the pollution levels in Mumbai and how it changes with respect to humidity, you will actually find the opposite. So this analysis was incorrect, it hallucinated. The visualization here seems absent. Let us tell ClickHouse MCP to plot a visualization. So here is the visualization it has come up with the humidity increases, the pollution level stays the same as per analysis done by ClickHouse MCP. Same is evident from these graphs. This has clearly hallucinated, and the analysis done is incorrect. So why the difference? Like you notice that this does not align with how the reality is and what is present on the internet about this particular phenomenon. So why is the difference? ClickHouse MCP pulled is going to be a question to query converter. It pulled a bunch of data, or to whatever extent it could pull data to correlate. There is a whole lot of data. There is hundreds of gigabytes of data. So it did a best effort analysis, but it basically pulled a whole bunch of a data dump with respect to the question and tried to analyze the entire data dump. And that is not the right minimal context for the NLM. It could be either more than what is required or less than what is required to do a good enough analysis. While Zero Analyst, with the different technology it uses, with a different architecture and engineering that it has, actually pulls the data and then figures out, with respect to the question and the context of the data, what would be the right minimum viable and best possible context that it should give to the large language model to be able to do this analysis. And that is why, because of the way it does things differently, it is actually able to not just do an analysis without hallucinations, but also come up with the receipts, the backing evidence, the data that results in the analysis. So the user can verify for himself whether the analysis is correct or it has hallucinated. Thank you for your time.